I'm sitting here looking at something that has pages, it had a hard cover, and lots of words inside, and it's something called a book. There have been some very interesting developments in the last couple of years about books. And the interesting thing is that this, what I'm holding in my hand, has, fortunately or unfortunately, given way to something like this, which is a little tablet that amazingly can hold literally hundreds and hundreds of books. And to talk about this subject, I'm sitting with two people who know the book world intimately. So let's first of all get your name.
Hi, my name is Becky.
I'm Pete.
And let me ask you, Pete, starting off with you, because I know you from many years ago, what do you think about the future of books? And I know that you have your own store here in PV in the mall. Yeah, what do you think about the future of books?
I think that there are always going to be printed books around. The numbers, who's to say right now? Digital reading isn't going away. So this is something that we're going to deal with. It's made the superstore model of a bookstore shrink considerably. And what we're in now, for example, my old Borders I managed was 12,500 square feet. We're sitting in a comfortable 2,700 square foot store right now. And we believe this is what the new model for the actual physical bookstore is.
In view of what you just said, and it's maybe my British sense of humor, is that like comparing an ant to an elephant?
Pretty apt, fairly, yeah.
And Becky, let me ask you, you're both the owner or co-owners of this bookstore. What are the challenges of starting in a business like this, given the economy?
Well, I think the main challenge is, of course, getting people in the door.
Are there certain kinds of books I see looking here? Trader Joe's cookbook. I mean, I love Trader Joe's. Are there certain kind of books that you feel you should or must stock in order to appeal to the wider growing market?
You really listen to your customer. You look at your sales information and you find out. That was interesting that you mentioned the Trader Joe's. They're some of our best-selling books. People up here love Trader Joe's. And we knew that information. I had that information from managing a store just a couple hundred feet from here. So our knowledge of the local buyer helps us in that regard. But also you have to go over your sales information, and you know your best resource is always your customers. Your customers are gonna tell you what you should carry, and that's your best resource. You have to be able to listen.
You know, since I know you first, for people who are watching and say to themselves, I would like to be, I feel I'm an entrepreneur, but I would like to go into business for myself. How much of a challenge is it to go into business for yourself? I'm sure both of you, Becky's smiling here, I'm sure both of you thought a lot about going into business for yourself.
It's much more than you think it's going to be.
Has it added gray hairs to your head?
Well, I was already at a good start, but certainly. But you know, I can also say it's the most rewarding thing you'll ever do as well. And you know, because there are going to be a million people telling you that it's not going to work out. People are telling that a bookstore won't survive in this economy. Why is anybody doing that? That's more a statement on the big box bookstores' day is over. The local bookstore's coming back. You can see, if you look at what's going into border spaces now, they're independents. And back to your original question, I think if we'd have known everything it was going to take, we might have hesitated a little bit, but I'm glad kind of we didn't.
Yeah.
Because we actually might not have done it to the extent that we did.
Are you glad you jumped in the pool?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This is what I love because books are what I love, most of all, and being around them all day, every day is the best.
And what do you feel about this little item I'm holding in my hand?
You know, it is what it is. Pete said they're not going to go away, and I think that people should be able to read all the time in whatever format they want to read. They're great for traveling. However, they're not going to replace physical books. You sort of noted the cookbooks behind you. Cookbooks are one type of book that we think really are kind of e-format proof, because people want a big, beautiful book. when they're cooking. Same with kids books, which is the section behind Pete and me over here. So many kids books are picture books, and big and beautiful is what they're looking for.
I know that you were both managers of Borders bookstores. You, I believe, were in El Segundo, and Pete was here in PV. What does that background, or has that background given you, and I'm sure it has, a knowledge of what kind of books to put in your store?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely, because we know what people are interested in. We've seen, I mean, it was wonderful in many ways having the corporation buying the books and not having to worry about that. But we've also seen what happens when a centrally located book buyer in Michigan buys books for the West Coast. You know, you just see things like gardening in the Midwest that don't really play.
And Michigan is obviously not Palos Verdes.
Far from it.
Pete?
Exactly what she said. You know, there's something about listening to your local area. We do a lot more business with local people now than we were allowed to do with Borders. We didn't have the autonomy to buy local titles and do things like that. So here it's kind of cool. We're trying to be very friendly with the local authors and businesses.
It's very interesting you use the word allowed.
Yes, it was, you know, trying to get permission to do anything outside of what was the norm was, you know, if you felt like you had to get 2 U.S. Senator signatures and a urine sample to get somebody to okay you buying 5 books from a local author. Yeah. It was crazy. You know, it's nice now. I can say, sure, bring it in.
Are there any days, this is kind of a funny question, but are there any days of the week, especially you're in business for yourself now, that are more, I don't know, I was going to say successful, but where you find more people come in? I would assume it's the weekend.
Absolutely. We're, you know, a weekend store. This is a weekend mall. We do most of our business on Saturdays and Sundays.
What do you, we're nearly come to the end of our short chat here, but what do you feel are some of the things that you have to do or want to do that you couldn't do when you were owned by a big corporate giant?
Dealing at a local level is nice. Not having to over-order books. I think the word we used to describe our store as nimble.
Nimble?
Nimble. I can, you know, just as, like for a big ship, like a big box store, to be doing something that's wrong, to stop them takes them a few miles. If we have an idea and we do it and it doesn't work, I can stop it right now, you know. So, I mean, and we have to rotate. We have to turn our inventory. I can't have, you know, I don't have warehouses to store 500 copies of a Stephen King title. I've got to order it as it sells, and that's an art in itself, trying to order enough that you don't run out, but not so much that you have a bunch of overstock.
There is one key thing that I have neglected to ask you, and that is the key thing is, what is the name of your bookstore?
It's the Book Frog.
And how did you come up with that really, I think, unique name?
Well, I have always, for whatever reason, had a love of frogs. I have blogged about books for a number of years as the Book Frog, and it seemed like a natural progression to name the store after the blog.
And the other question in association with that is, what about your website? If people want to get more information from you, about you, would you like them to call you on the telephone or go to a website? Give me that sort of information.
You can do either. We're here, you know, we're both here every day. That's one of the really good things, and one of the really difficult things about having your own business is you're responsible for it. But you can call us here. Our number is 310-265-2665, and that spells book. And our website is
thebookfrog.com.
Okay.
And we're on Facebook, so you can like us on Facebook.
That is very important. And I guess the last question for both of you is, how important do you, when you just mentioned Facebook, how important is something like that to the success of a place like the Book Frog?
It's huge.
It is huge.
It's one of the really only tools that a small business has to address, to get the word out.
That didn't exist when all three of us were teenagers.
No, it didn't
Exist 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you both very, very much indeed. And of course, we wish you lots of luck. And this is John Clayton in The Book Frog, and isn't that a wonderful name? And thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time in The Book Frog.